All right, so welcome into the live stream today. We're going to be talking about XRP in a way that also looks at institutional adoption. Now, there's a bit of an angle here that I think you guys should be aware of, both good and also at the same time. Always keep your eyes open. We'll dive in deep. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. XRP making moves throughout the week. We've seen a little bit of interest in the Celsius deal. Obviously, we've got action within the case itself, causing a little bit of kerfuffle, so to speak, around just the release of Hinman's emails. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, toward the end of the show today, I'll get you guys into sentiment on XRP, which you might be surprised a little bit about that. Make sure and hit like right now and give us your heads up on it. We always love to get your feedback on these kind of videos. And of course, before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is I Trust Capital. If you guys are looking at long-term crypto investments and you're thinking in the essence of, hey, I'm going to hold my Bitcoin, I'm going to hold my digital assets for a long time, and I'm looking at more of a long-term play on this, I Trust Capital is the place to check out. Definitely the number one spot, I think, in terms of investing your crypto in an IRA. It's easy to get started, super simple. They've lowered the fees in which you have to get going on, and of course, that's always a great aspect of an IRA is low fees, and then also just in the trading fees themselves, only 1%. So excellent stuff. Remember also, they really go kind of over the top in terms of trying to protect your assets. And this is something that I think in terms of secure storage, their regulated custodian that they utilize. I think that those are some of the bigger benefits that we always look for. Make sure and click the link below. If you have any questions, you can get a $100 funding reward just by signing up and getting involved. Now let's talk about the XRP report that came out, and I want to kind of showcase just what they are looking at. So Ripple did this report, and the focus of it was interesting. So it's crypto trends in business. Now, when you look at how businesses are going to essentially adopt, the first thing that happens when businesses start to adopt is you have the circular entities around them, which is the banks and of course institutions. And that is a big factor in which they're really kind of focusing in on this report. I want to jump to a couple of charts in here just to kind of get into a layer. So one of the things, of course, in terms of big adoption right now is NFT genre interest. And the areas to me to pay attention to in this particular report: music, 55%. And then if you look, of course, at gaming, sports, arts, TV, obviously brand related, it still is at 26% in terms of interest around NFTs. And the reason this is important, especially from both physical and digital experiences, which they talk a little bit about in the report itself, this starts to bring in the normies. It starts to bring in companies that are looking for just additional ways in which they can implement crypto strategies, and of course blockchain obviously being through NFT generation. So there's a lot of opportunity there that they really kind of focus on. Other aspects that I think, and I won't go too far into this, is the CBDC side of things, and this is central bank digital currency. There's a lot going on out there in terms of the monetary policy, what this is going to look like from a CBDC standpoint. I will kind of pull back a minute from here, because this is an important focus of why this report was done. And I'm, of course, an XRP fan. I hold XRP, and it is one of those projects that, and when I look at Ripple, just in what they've been able to do in terms of the global financial system, Ripple wins big if adoption through institutions is done. If banks start to implement custody and we start to see movement in the space, Ripple wins big. So there is a little bit, take that with a grain of salt. There is a little bit of initiative here, because I always follow the money, and it usually gets you in there. This was interesting too. Expected impact of CBDCs, and this is interesting because of the fact that they're looking at business in general, the impact on business in general, finance, and then society. And even though society had a large percentage of massive impact, 36%, business and finance were still at 28 and 34%. So to me, that still shows the potential. Now you get into enterprise, that's a little different scenario. That's where blockchain will be utilized in other ways other than through finance. So I do think this is going to be a big play. And again, it gets back to the whole point of is institutional adoption actually further on than we've maybe even knew? And if you refer back to a video we did this week, it was an interview with Mitako. And Seamus from Mitako got into some details, one about their deal with Citibank. Basically, Mitako essentially is an initiative similar to that of BlackRock and Coinbase, all right? So they're utilizing the aspect of custody and the security aspect of where big institutions will start to implement on the blockchain and also into the crypto assets themselves, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. But he mentioned something that was very interesting to me, and that is the scenario of banks that are further into the development of accepting and holding crypto assets than I think a lot of people are anticipating. So pretty cool. And it kind of aligns up with overall consumer attitudes toward crypto. This is in the report itself. And you look at some of the things, would only buy sustainable cryptocurrency. So I think we'll continue to see ESG, environmental sustainable governance, as a big part of that. Let me zoom in on that a little bit for you guys. Whoa, not too much. It gets a little hard on this PDF, but I'll kind of scan around there. But you can kind of see buying sustainable cryptocurrencies, prefer to buy sustainable, and then would prefer to buy sustainable cryptocurrencies. Still the top. I mean, that's over 50%. So a still big part of this, and this is one of the reasons that we see more and more tokens going into this strategy. And of course, Ethereum's most recent venture, obviously, into E2 and the merge, that will have a lot to do with it as well. Some other things that they had within this, and this is cool too. So this is giving more people access to financial services. This is benefits of using crypto for your organization, giving more people a better deal when using financial services. I think fees are going to be a big factor of why banks could maybe can create a whole new financial center around where the fees are coming. And then competitive advantage. This will be a big factor, I think, just in general of businesses that will be going. And as I said earlier, when you have all of these kinds of indications, then it really does push into the face of, well, all right, if that's happening within general business and enterprise, what is the next key thing that has to occur? You get the scenarios like what you had with BlackRock and Coinbase, which starts to push the hand of many of the banks out there within the market itself. Now, I want to get into a couple of things around pain points. This is related to borrowing, because again, back to institutional finance, borrowing will be a key factor on how and with the use of cryptocurrencies in general and blockchain will become a big, big issue. So key enterprise pain points related to borrowing, time to apply and be approved. So obviously the regulatory landscape will be a big deal. High interest rate that's obviously charged, and then being rejected. Those are some of the things that are and would be a scenario where blockchain could really start to affect a lot of this. And the fact that everything in terms of collateral is going to easily be sourced and accessible through banks and institutions to secure loans, things of that nature, which it just makes the system easier when people are out there doing things like raising capital, doing big loans, etc. And of course, they're doing this through typical banks. Here's some enterprise pain points related to raising capital, complexity, which is a problem, and then cost of raising capital, resources required to raise capital. If you get into something which they're talking about, which is tokenizing assets, which eventually, and there's many people that talk about this, Raoul Pal, etc., that really talk about the institutional grade of tokenizing assets in the future and what that might look like. And the potential for it is real. There is an absolute huge opportunity around all sorts of asset classes that eventually will make their way into tokenization. I think it's just going to be a matter of time before we really start to see this start to play out. So here's some of the key benefits that they report on of using blockchain and crypto for payments. And again, right there, the big one, of course, is increased data security, data quality, opportunity to expand more in more markets, obviously becoming a global thing. This is where XRP really plays into it. And again, why they did the report is really showcasing the strength of what XRP and Ripple mean to the global ecosystem in terms of finance. Real-time settlement, another big factor. opportunity to grow market share in the current markets. This will be a big, big deal with the banks that move early. And who better to partner with the right banks at the right time being XRP. So there was a lot in this report. I do recommend that you guys take a look at it. Some of the other things that I thought they hit on is reducing fraud, 24/7, 365 markets, opportunity to obviously build your brand in this new era of finance. And then, the other big one, which I think is cool, and that's fewer payment failures, which will be a big factor down the road, I think, with the benefit of what Ripple brings to the plate for the global financial ecosystem in terms of moving big money. I think it's just a matter of time, too, that we'll start to see Ripple moving into the retail sector. And this was kind of a thing that happened this week with their interest in just what was happening with Celsius and the bankruptcy dealings. There could be an opportunity for them to scoop up, maybe hundreds of thousands of depositors and at least that customer base, and be able to go in and maybe salvage and also create kind of a hero position in the market. And remember, there's still a lot of XRP held inside Celsius, so that's a big one as well. But here's the article. It kind of breaks down the report, which talks about 76% of financial institutions expect to use crypto by 2025. This is a big, big number in a very, very short period of time. If you think about this right now, the likelihood, and here we are, 2020, almost 23, in 2 years, we're going to be on the cusp as almost every bank that you, your family, or your friends utilize today are going to be in cryptocurrency in some way or another. So huge aspect in terms of growth and the opportunity of what this might look like for sure. Use of crypto also as a payment is probably the most important factor. This is going to be coming from things like we just talked about earlier today, Lightning, Bitcoin, and the use case of layer 2s on Ethereum. All of that, I think, is going to play into the future of where payments are really growing. 50% of respondents in this particular scenario, in this research, use it as a hedge against inflation, a currency for making payments. And if you're like us, this is a big part of how we do business even here at the network. We utilize Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, USDC, and stablecoins all the time. It's a daily activity. And I think we're going to see more and more of this for sure. Interest in buying crypto from your bank. Look at that. 65% of people at yes. And I think just a very small percentage of people that just weren't really there yet. And I think that is just a matter of time before we start to see this for sure. This is, I think, in a position right now, just the benefits and the ratio in which we're going to see the adoption and the potential for Ripple to be at the center stage around all of this is a real big opportunity. And I think it's going to be one that really kind of sets it into the next level. All right, so just to think about this, and you think on the global level of where this is going, banks are going to start incentivizing. If banks start incentivizing at scale, what is the kind of crypto incentives that they might offer? So here's a tweet right here from Watcher Guru. This is a Japanese bank that has launched a Bitcoin and XRP rewards program for customers. If you look at the story, what they're essentially doing, I'm going to kind of highlight a couple of things here. So new and existing customers can earn up to 8,000 Japanese yen, that's $60 worth of XRP or Bitcoin, just for essentially signing up. So you've got a bank here now that is in a position where they're paying people in cryptocurrencies to essentially sign up. At some point, the next component will be, let us hold your cryptocurrencies. This is just a matter of time before I think we see massive global reaction to this, really across, I think, most of the leading countries, especially in the G20s, in terms of use case for sure. Make sure and get your questions in over on the side and smash the like button. We'd love to get your feedback on this. If you are an XRP holder, I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you think the case is right now. Do you think that this is close to a settlement? There's some things happening I'll talk about. Or do you think we're still a bit out before we start to see something happening within the XRP case? Here's John Deaton talking a little bit as well. Somebody better tell the SEC director that a bank in Japan is now transferring illegal securities. legal under oath that the SEC doesn't engage in selective enforcement, even though he does. So it's the absurd argument for XRP and the whole scenario around Ripple. And of course, John Deaton, kind of one of the, I think the torchbearers out there in terms of really kind of showcasing just how idiotic, these kind of scenarios really are in. And if you look at just the situation with Judge Netburn and a lot of the decisions that have been made, two of the things, I guess, over the next few months, whether it's next weeks or months, the key aspect right now is Hinman's emails, turning those. If you don't know much about the SEC case against XRP, watch a few of our videos. If maybe you're brand new to crypto and you're trying to learn about XRP and what Ripple is doing, watch a few of our videos. We really kind of go into a drill down, go into some of the interviews that we had with John Deaton, because he really breaks down some of the case fallacies that the SEC has presented over the months, and they're really kind of down to their last position. And this is really one of the judgments outside of summary judgment that would essentially settle the case. And that is, once that these emails come over, if they come over, John has a lot to say about that, it would pretty much change the face of how all of this will look for XRP. So big stuff out there. Here's another thing that when you look at, actually, I want to jump into, I think it's in there. Yeah, so here's another thing I want to jump into, and that is Coinbase CFO saying crypto staking for institutional investors could be a phenomenon in the future. So opportunity here, again, of institutional groups really kind of accelerating into the space right here. Further in the article says, previously, the way that institutions could have access to staking is via Coinbase Cloud, so they could now use the service to run their own node, but offering it as a dedicated staking service similar to what we have for retail customers because they just onboarded institutional clients. That's going to be interesting because if it gets to that level, it gets back into the whole point of large-scale institutions starting to do things around liquid staking and others. And that, to me, is huge because it does offer up the whole aspect of how institutional finance moves in. Who's one of the biggest players in institutional finance? XRP, Ripple. So when you stake ETH2, you're locking up your assets. Right now, we know about all this with Coinbase until the merge. Then some period after, for some institutions, that liquidity lockup is not palatable. So maybe they're going to be interested in staking, and they'll basically want to do it on a liquid asset. So I think there's going to be some examples of how creativity is going to be utilized in these institutions of how to still handle staking but not be able to be exposed like what we've seen over the past few months with things like Voyager and Celsius around ETH and staked ETH. Further in here, crypto winter brings a lot of opportunity. This is something that I think is a lot of people looking at, especially around XRP. Is it the time to be looking at XRP acquisition? I'll show you some sentiment data because XRP has been somewhat a repressed coin and token for quite some time, obviously because of the SEC position. But I think this is a good position for a lot of people looking at where the opportunity really resides in terms of where this crypto winter may take a lot of assets. Wisdomtree, which offers a range of ETFs and ETPs. These are indexes and model portfolios that end in the second quarter with a $74 billion assets under management. Again, this gets back to the point, big money in the place in terms of ETFs coming down the pipeline. Some companies are struggling with obviously the realities of regulation, risk management, and so on. That I think is probably going to change during this crypto winter, which again is going to put a lot of companies, including companies like Ripple and others, into a good position for really doing a lot of good in these crypto winter opportunities. So good stuff out there. What Wisdomtree is saying is they expect to see revenues from its digital assets initiative beginning in 2023. That's 6 months away. And they didn't really talk about the projections, which means they're probably big. And the end goal is to deliver financial services to customers faster and cheaper. Again, back to the point of breakneck speed in terms of adoption by institutions, always a good sign. But at the same time, as you've heard me talk about, there's always some risk there because this is where you're starting to swim in the pool with sharks. So it is a factor that you guys got to pay attention to. Here was John talking about Hinman's email, and this is a pretty straightforward tweet, and I think it does hit on the home front, and that is that they'll never see the light of day. This was from several weeks ago, that the SEC may settle with Ripple rather than surrendering these documents. Now the court has put it out. This is a requirement by the court to settle on delivering these documents. So does that mean we're nearing a potential settlement if the court in fact has said, listen, next thing is summary judgment, get these documents out there, or we're going to rule on this case. And if this is a scenario where they just absolutely do not want to deliver on these documents because of the implications this might mean for a lot of other assets, digital assets in the space, this may be one of those positions right now where we do see some movement in the case itself. Make sure and get some questions in over on the side. I know we have a poll coming up, so let's take a look at where we are on this poll. All right. Could 76% of the worldwide financial institutions adopt cryptocurrency by 2025? No, too soon. And most of you are on the bus. Big money will rush in. And I think, you know, when you look at the assets around this, because this is something that we will see regulatory guidance on. Overall, it's already going to most likely use the Ripple case as its, you know, kind of the bellwether toward how the SEC will respond, including the CFTC, and how that all starts to shake out, because this is a very critical time both for regulators, for the regulation entities, and then for a lot of the projects that are eventually going to have to do disclosures and either be set up as a security or make their way over into the commodity bundle. That's the question mark right now. So the next 12 to 18 months could really isolate a lot of tokens. And I want you to think about that, because when we start to see an isolation of a lot of tokens, guess what happens? Market liquidity starts to shift to tokens that have already started to see this stress. And who's seen more stress than any? XRP, Ripple. So if in case we get a settlement for whatever reason, whether it is a settlement and they just say, hey, here's a slap on the hand, XRP is now traded as X, whether it's a commodity or a security, at least at that point going forward, we'll know exactly where we are. Where some of these projects that we still do not know what the SEC is really kind of rolling out. So there's a lot happening in the next little bit. And unfortunately, it is going to be the XRP, or fortunately, the XRP case that really kind of makes their way into the guidance of how this industry is going to move. Let's get into a few questions here for today. Be Sovereign, thanks for tuning back in. We will never see those emails. I agree with you. I think this goes to most likely a settlement. But the likelihood is they're still going to continue to push back on this through all sorts of court actions to avoid this and either extend. And I still don't understand why they're extending this case. If they know that they are kind of in checkmate right now, why is the SEC continuing to do this? Could be something here in terms of timing. There's a lot of factors here, because it could be a scenario where DC is trying to catch up on regulatory environment. I just always wonder if there's some inside, you know, moves happening from the regulatory side of things. Jay Johnson, in the future, laws will be passed to make you store your cryptocurrency in banks. It will be illegal to hold your own cryptocurrencies. Huh. Man, Jay, that is dystopian right there, my man. So that means you could not put cash in your mattress anymore? I guess that would be the case. If we get to that level, boys and girls, that's a sad day for society. We may see some very interesting things happen for sure. Carlos, SEC is running scared. They're just delaying as much as possible. They look bad. Ripple will win this. You saying first quarter of 2023. Could be. I mean, I don't know. Here we are leaning. Remember, last quarter of the year, almost nothing happened. So really, we only have about 90 days left of getting something done. So the real question would be, can it be done in those 90 days? Okay, Funky Fresh, let's take a look at what you're saying. Level the playing field, even the regulations. I think that will happen, but if you think we're going to deal on a level playing field in this space, in a space in which hundreds of trillions of dollars eventually will be at stake here, I think you're just mistaken. This is old school finance trying to, again, claw into this market one last time in being able to ship. The difference is I think the entities and the people behind what's happening right now in the shift of the global finance system is playing a little bit more closer to the vest. But at the same time, we're making some mistakes. And I've talked about that before. We got to stop doing that. And that includes the companies and the leaders that are out there falling into these, cesspools of greed and causing these major market meltdowns like what we saw with Celsius and Voyager. Hill Dog, if XRP is seen as a commodity, what ripple effects do you see? If they are seen as a commodity, then I think the validity and all of that casework would be utilized as framework for an existing scenario or judgment to be dealt with. So precedents would be started to play into this, which I believe is one of the reasons they can't let this go to a judgment. If precedence is used in this case, and then we do see a scenario of a commodity framework for XRP, that really starts to change things in a big, big way. And the SEC loses a lot of power because that puts the CFTC right in the driver's seat, for sure. So JTXRP, we will get John Deaton back on soon. John's a friend of the network, so we do get him on often. And we talk about it. He has a great perspective of not only the case, but remember, he's representing tens of thousands of XRP holders. And that's really the bigger thing. Remember, he won that amicus brief here not too long ago, where he himself would be still able to represent and present in the case, which was something done kind of interestingly enough. If you're following the case close enough, basically what happened was the SEC called Deaton out by name in the report or in the filing. And it was the first time, that this had ever really been done before in a federal case, where they were actually afraid of the attorney, which was crazy. So I think XRP, or I should say Deaton, kind of has their number, at least starting to set this up, because again, there could be some civil issues right here in terms of all the XRP holders. So good stuff. Captain Kurt, Ripple will be a liquidity provider for crypto exchanges. Could be. Could definitely go to that level. Sold my XRP, sold my car for my XRP. Man, you are all in. Listen, guys, I do not recommend making those kinds of moves just right now. Those are all in moves, and you got to be careful right now. And the thing I always tell people, and again, not financial advice, and the key here is never put in more than you are comfortable losing. And that's the way I look at crypto or any volatile asset. And look at stocks, certain stocks, maybe not necessarily go to zero, even though there are many that have 90% correction in Peloton. There's many others out there that have had that same kind of scenario. Never over expose yourself overall. UP Trade, it's all about paying, yes, bribes, people who make things legal. Yeah, you're right. Wells Fargo is working with Ripple. Yes, they are. That's a good one. All right, so where do you find charts like that? I'm assuming you meant of all the ones who were. So we have a team of researchers that's constantly scouring. Plus, we're also looking at sentiment data and activity on social, which usually directs us a little bit. And then we pour out our own sentiment data, so it helps us kind of get an analysis together. That's how we do it. Fear of lawsuit on top of people not knowing how to buy or things, it thinks it's illegal to buy. I think, yeah, that's another factor. I think once we see this scenario kind of resolved with the SEC and XRP, you're going to see some pent-up demand start to move to the market. And I think that will be a scenario where all you people holding XRP could really be in a good position. I do want to get into the sentiment for XRP real quick. Let me go over here to Top Crypto. We will pull it up for you. Let's jump over to XRP because it moved a little bit. It had been trending down and then had a nice little jump. Yeah, so right here, which is trending right, the white line, so you guys understand, that's the overall market that we look in. And we have a little bit of downtrend on the overall market right now. That's not anything major, but it is a little bit downward trend. Sentiment right there, though, on XRP is slightly above, so it's ticked up just a little bit. Again, I think there are some movements. Again, price action is usually caused in this market, not by fundamentals, but by community action. As you guys know, we do watch amplification, which has been separating a little bit from XRP's top line sentiment. And it is starting to flatline a little bit. In fact, it's a little bit down. So anytime I start to see this will paint itself out on Monday, whether or not we do see a downtrend in terms of the token for XRP. Remember, it's tied a little bit to what's happening in Bitcoin and Ethereum, so it does have some variance there. All right, you guys, if you're listening in over on the podcast right now, jump in over here on the YouTube channel. It's where we do all these live streams. We'll drop in charts, give you guys additional research, find a lot of stuff for you that saves you a ton of time, and then give you some opinion and our own internal research data to hopefully set you on your course in doing your own portfolio, because everybody's portfolio is a little different, so not financial advice. But do get over here. This is the place to come. Join the Diamond Circle. It's a free email group. You also get access to AMAs and some other stuff that we do on the website. So it's really easy to join. Just click the link below. And don't forget, if you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechBath.